With every team now at least 10 games into the year, today I want to do a start of the season regrade of the biggest moves we saw this offseason. If you guys like the content, smash the like and subscribe button, and let's get into this. Let's start with the free agency moves, which there weren't many of, and work our way up to the blockbuster trades. While there was tons of big possibilities, most of the top names, Zach LaVine, James Harden, Bradley Beal, DeAndre Ayton, they all stayed put. So by far, the biggest free agency move was former Dallas Mavericks guard Jalen Brunson signing a 4-year, $104 million deal with the New York Knicks. This was an interesting move at the time, as while he was a really solid player, averaging 16 points and 5 assists on solid efficiency a year ago, this move really locked them into the core of him, RJ Barrett, and Julius Randle, which definitely has some question marks even going into the season. Now this is a weird one to grade, as Jalen Brunson is having a solid start to the year. He's averaging 19 and 7, shooting 49% from the field. Solid, but definitely not exceeding expectations, as I think those were closer to what we saw at the end of last season and in the playoffs. I'm starting to have some serious concerns for this group that I think the contract of Jalen Brunson might only amplify, at least for the next couple years. Brunson and Randle are both on contract through 2025, with a player option after that. Fournier still has another year left on his deal, getting $18 million. RJ Barrett's going to be getting $30 million in 2027. Barring a big move, this is this team's core. Obviously, there are some solid young pieces like Quickly, Toppin, and Grimes, but these aren't guys that I think most are expecting to completely shift the Knicks situation during the current timeline of their big contracts. Julius Randle's having a solid year, averaging 20 points on okay efficiency. RJ Barrett, on the other hand, has been extremely disappointing, especially after landing such a massive contract. He's putting up 19 points on less than 43-31 splits. So again, this move was okay, but it doesn't move the needle. I don't think the return on the contract will be anything special. In fact, I'm not even sure the trade market would be too enticing for someone like Brunson on his current deal. This team lacks flexibility. They struck out on the Donovan Mitchell situation, and now future situations like that look tougher to pull off with some of these young pieces decreasing in value. Whatever the most neutral grade is what I'm going to give. I guess that would be a C+ or a B-. After Brunson, the most notable free agency moves were guys like PJ Tucker, Malik Monk, and John Wall, all of which I don't really think are worth your time, so let's get into these trades. Today's video is sponsored by PrizePicks. It's a sports pick'em site that's actually legal in over 30 states. All you do is pick over or under on certain player stats. I've been having a ton of fun, and I'm really excited about tonight's entry. The first thing that jumped out to me was Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's points. He's on absolute fire right now, and I think it's only a matter of time before his squares start with a 3 every single night. Then I'm going Jalen Brunson points, which he's gotten 4 of the last 5 games, and it's kind of fitting for this video. I'm throwing in Karl-Anthony Towns assists, which he's also gotten in 4 of the last 5. And lastly, I went to 3-pointers made and saw I only need 1 from Jokic. Easy, I'm taking that. If these 4 selections happen, my $50 entry becomes $500. If you guys are interested, we've got a pretty awesome promo for you. If you sign up with the link in the description and use code JIMMER, they're going to give you a deposit match up to $100. Let me know if you guys end up playing along with me, or send me your entry that you're feeling good about. Thank you, PrizePicks, for sponsoring today's video. We'll start with one of the more least talked about ones, the Christian Wood deal. The Mavericks sent Houston a bunch of irrelevant contracts like Boban, Trey Burke, and Marquise Chris, as well as a 26th overall pick, Wendell Carter, in exchange for Wood on the final year of his contract. The Rockets would end up trading Moore again on draft night in exchange for Ty Washington. Moore has barely seen the court, and Ty has yet to see the court due to a knee injury. So as of right now, it looks like the Mavericks gave up a bag of chips for a guy that's currently averaging 16 points and 8 rebounds, shooting with ridiculous 57-46 splits. He's actually one of the top contenders for 6th man of the year, and rightfully so. Now with him on the last year of his contract, unless you think the Mavericks actually have a legit championship chance this season, it's not like this was a complete robbery, but nonetheless, a great move for a team that needs to be doing everything possible to take advantage of their current situation, having one of the top players in the league, Luka Doncic. Hopefully they're able to extend him this offseason, as I really do think he'll be the perfect long-term fit. For the Mavericks, I've got to give it an A, and for the Rockets, I've got to give it a D. Not just because I don't think they got great value in return, which they didn't, but since signing Wood on a great contract that paid him just over $13 million a season, this team has been competing for a top pick in the draft, yet held on to him just to eventually trade him for, as we said, a bag of chips. Maybe Ty Washington is their next franchise point guard, but I wouldn't count on it. Another trade that wasn't a huge deal on paper, but was actually pretty notable due to one of the teams involved, was the Malcolm Brogdon deal. The Celtics gave up some non-key players like Aaron Naismith and Daniel Theis, along with their 2023 first-round pick, which it was fair to assume, even at the time, would likely be in the late 20s, for Malcolm Brogdon with 3 years left on his contract, getting around $23 million a season. Clearly, this contract is what allowed Boston to get this done at that price. For certain teams, this deal would be far less enticing, but I loved it given the Celtics situation. They already have their big contracts dished out. Tatum, Brown, Smart, Robert Williams are all locked up. This team was not going to be doing anything free agency, so I love the opportunity to add a high-level six-man to a group that just made the NBA Finals. Now, it's not like Brogdon has shattered expectations. He's averaging 4 points, shooting 48% from the field and 37% from three. But he's been solid and, more importantly, has managed to stay on the court, probably the biggest struggle for him throughout his career. I think this is a signing that truly could pay dividends in the playoffs. I think for both teams, it was a B+. The Pacers cleared up some space for their young frontcourt. They got out of a big contract and in the process got an interesting young piece in Aaron Nesmith as well as a late 2023 first. For the Celtics, you managed to keep your whole core intact while bringing in vital depth that to this point has looked the part. I think the last pretty big trade before we hit the blockbuster ones was the Jerami Grant deal. The Pistons traded Grant to the Portland Trail Blazers in exchange for a 2025 first coming from Milwaukee as well as 2 second-round selections. A pretty fair price with him on the final year of his deal. So far, it's definitely proved to be a great move for the Blazers. He's averaging 18 points and 4 rebounds, shooting 48% from the field and 44% from three. Right now, the Blazers sit tied for the second best record in the West at 8-3. That's also with Damian Lillard having missed the last 4 games with injury, yet the Blazers are still 3-1 since. A big part of that is Grant, who's averaged a super efficient 22 points in that time. I definitely had some question marks going into the year surrounding the Blazers, but with what we've seen so far, I'm actually pretty bullish. Damian Lillard went out there and looked like the Lillard of old. Simons looks extremely promising. I like this front court of Grant and Nurkic. The recent topic Shaedon Sharpe looks great, and they also flooded the rest of the rotation with solid wing defenders. Now, I don't think the Blazers are legit contenders this season, despite what their record suggests, but I do think this was a very solid move that I would have to grade an A. I really hope they're able to extend him this offseason. Then for the Pistons, I'm going to give it a C+. I like getting the Milwaukee first that far out, but like the Christian Wood situation, we knew a Grant trade was inevitable, but they decided to let too many years of the deal play out, losing tons of trade value in the process. Now we're going to get into the big trades, beginning with the Hawks coming out of nowhere to acquire Dejounte Murray from the Spurs. The Hawks ended up giving up a 2020 first from Charlotte, a 2025 first, a swap in 2026, and a 2027 first. While on paper it seems like a ton, it's actually a pretty fair price considering the protection on Charlotte's pick and the fact that the 2026 swap will likely not convey considering San Antonio's rebuild is only just beginning. At the time, I absolutely loved the decision for the Hawks, not just getting a player that was coming off a season averaging 21, 9, and 8 while being one of the league's elite defenders, but the direction it was going to push the Hawks as a team. I think it became pretty clear that Trae Young hero ball didn't have championship upside. I loved the decision to get another ball-dominant guard that would hopefully force Young into more off-ball opportunity while also making up, to a degree, his struggles on defense. So far, I think it's been a solid move. Dejounte's averaging 23 points, 7 rebounds, and 8 assists, while shooting with the best efficiency of his career. The Hawks are 7-4, which is pretty crazy considering Trae Young has shot just 38% from the field and 31% from 3 to start the season. Once he gets things going, which he will, I really think this team is a much more scary threat in the Eastern Conference than most are giving credit. Now, the Hawks gave up a decent amount, and Dejounte Murray only has 1 more year left on his contract, but I think it's going to prove to be the right move, so I'm going to give it an A-. For the Spurs, I would have to give it an A+. I think they maximized the value of Dejounte, and they traded him at the right time. Then lastly, we get into the 2 massive moves made by the Utah Jazz, and man, have these moves already had some crazy storylines to start the season. The trade that came first was the Timberwolves acquiring one of the best rim protectors to ever touch the NBA court, Rudy Gobert, giving up Malik Beasley, Patrick Beverley, the most recent 22nd pick in the draft, Walker Kessler, 4 first-round selections, and a pick swap. One of the craziest hauls in NBA history for a 30-year-old center that has a $46 million player option in 2026. And oh, let's not forget, the Timberwolves made this trade already having their franchise center in Karl-Anthony Towns. Now, there hasn't been any surprises when it comes to Gobert to start the season. He's been exactly what we expected. He's contending for Defensive Player of the Year while being an extremely efficient scorer only at the basket and one of the league's top rebounders. The concerns come from the fact that the Timberwolves put their future on the line for this current group, and right now the Timberwolves sit with a 5-7 record. For a team that was hoping this trade would jump them into contending status, things are not looking great. So far, Cat's defensive struggles have only been amplified, having to deal with more on-ball duties. Anthony Edwards is struggling to find attacking space at the rim with the presence of Rudy Gobert. There's already been some serious question marks surrounding the value of a guy like Gobert in a playoff environment. There's definitely some serious question marks about giving a guy like that $40 million a season. And there's even more about trading for a guy like that, getting paid like that, and giving up nearly 6 first-round selections. I think it was an F deal for the Timberwolves and A for the Jazz when it happened, and honestly, I haven't seen anything for that opinion to change. Then lastly, we've got the biggest trade of the offseason where we saw the Cavaliers give up Colin Sexton, Lauri Markkanen, Ochai Agbaji, 3 first-round picks and 2 pick swaps for Donovan Mitchell. A huge haul, but that's the kind of price you need to pay for one of the top guards in the league. When you're a smaller market like Cleveland, other than the opportunities that come from having one of the best players on the planet being born there, it's hard to bring in top talent outside of the draft. This team's core has been built. They acquired Jared Allen and hit in the draft with guys like Darius Garland and Evan Mobley. It was time to make a big move, and I think this one's going to pay off big time. Right now, they don't even want to take him out of the game. He's playing a league-high 39 minutes. I'm not sure what the logic there is, but it's led to the best numbers of his career, averaging 32 points and 6 assists, shooting 51% from the field and 45% from 3. Garland's only played 5 games, but the Cavaliers are 8-3. I really think the upside for this group is insane, and I'm excited to see what they pull off. I'm giving the Cavaliers an A, and there's no question about it. The Utah Jazz get an A, considering the massive draft haul they ended up getting, as well as Lauri Markkanen, who's currently the frontrunner for most improved, that if they decide to trade, would just make the Mitchell package look even crazier. It's insane what the Jazz are doing right now. Who would have thought that after trading away their franchise cornerstones for first-round pick headline packages, they would be the current #1 seed in the West with a record of 10-3. Lauri Markkanen and Jordan Clarkson look like the real deal. This team has some of the most depth in the entire league, with guys like Sexton and Malik Beasley coming off the bench. It's honestly crazy, and while I don't think they're going to end up remotely close to the top of the West, I do think this group could put together a solid year, but is it for the best? I don't think the Jazz have much long-term plans for most of this group. I want to know your thoughts. Do the Jazz blow it up for a second time in less than a year, or do they let this play out, considering just how much future draft capital they have coming their way from other teams? But that's the video, guys. You guys tell me your thoughts in the comments below. If you liked the video, smash the like and subscribe button, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.